Welcome back. Last lesson, we looked at the Terraform workflow of the write, plan, and apply stages. But once a resource is provisioned or managed by Terraform, what sort of lifecycle does that resource have from a perspective of Terraform? Well, when we create a resource in Terraform or pull in existing resources into Terraform for it to manage, those resources are saved in the Terraform state. Now, the state stuff has come up a few times, and I promise there's going to be lessons covering Terraform state in depth. But remember, this state stuff is basically just our saved inventory of what Terraform knows about or manages, and how it maps that inventory to our Terraform configuration files. Now, using this state information, a resource in the scope of Terraform can have various actions performed against it depending on its current state. First, of course, we have the create action, and that's where Terraform would first create the resource object based on the configuration we have defined in our Terraform configuration files. Then once that resource object is created, we can also get rid of it. Terraform uses the term destroy when we want to delete or remove any previously created object. If we remove a resource section from our Terraform configuration files and that resource is no longer there, when Terraform evaluates our configuration files from a Terraform plan or a Terraform apply, it compares the current state it knows about to our current configuration files. And if that resource isn't there, it would actually destroy or delete that resource. Then next, we have the update and place action. Now, with this one, it'd be where you have a previously created resource through Terraform, and then you perform some change in your configuration file to update metadata or make some change to that resource. And it's where the change can be made to that resource without needing to rebuild it from scratch. So rather than Terraform destroying the resource that was previously created and rebuilding it from scratch and adding in your new changes that you made, it keeps the resource as is, then just makes the necessary additions or changes to it based on the new config changes. What types of changes you can do as in-place updates can depend on the resource itself and the type of change you're trying to do to it. But for those resources that can't be updated in place, the last action as part of our resource lifecycle to look at here is the destroy and recreate. This destroy and recreate action is used when we can't do that in-place update for resources. Terraform would actually manage the complete destroy of the resource first, and then reprovision that resource, and also make the new changes we added to the resource based on our Terraform configuration files. Now, Terraform also allows us to use additional lifecycle meta arguments with our resources. So we have additional control over these lifecycle actions Terraform will take. We may have some resources where we simply want to ignore any configuration changes so that Terraform doesn't do any updates or end up destroying that resource if it's some sort of mission critical resource in our environment. So that's it for our intro on the Terraform resource lifecycle. Again, we can create resources, destroy them, update them in place if that's possible. And if it's not possible, we have Terraform managing a destroy and recreate action so we can completely refresh that resource from scratch and provision the resources based on any new changes that are being asked for. So thanks for watching and see you in the next lesson.